Alrighty, today we are going to review a movie called Father of the Year, um, starring David Spade, uh, Nat Faxon, Joey Bragg, Matt Shively, Bridget Mendler. Um, can't remember. Jackie Sandler played Crystal, but I can't remember what character she even was. Um, Mary Gillis played Ruth. Uh, Bill Kottkamp played PJ. Kevin Nealon played Peter Francis. And Peyton Russ played Aiden, and I believe that was basically the main cast, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so this is about these two kids that kind of make well, he goes back to visit his father, who's kind of like a deadbeat dad, I guess, kind of like an alcoholic, um, kind of lives life just freely, really. A very free-spirited father, and the other one is working in a lab, testing products and stuff, so on and so forth, and is trying to make his son like the perfect person, but obviously doesn't he doesn't know what he wants to do, and the other son seems to kind of have his life together. So yeah, Wayne's son is Ben, and Marty's sons are Larry, who is the oldest of the two, and Aiden. Right? I believe that was it. Right? So they're kind of all in the same friend group, and Ben, no matter what he seems to do, something always goes wrong, especially when he's especially when he's around his father. So the two of them kind of make this bet on who could kick the other one's ass, and Wayne takes it a little more seriously than Marty does at the very beginning, and shows up at his house eventually, and they get into this fight, and then Ben ends up tackling his father off the roof right through their like garden shed. It was just like, oh my God, this movie, it's going to be like 10 for yeah, like it's going to be not a 10 for comedy, but it's going to be comedic anyway. And I kind of found that David Spade sounded very much like Adam Sandler in this movie. And I know they've been friends for a super long time, so I guess that makes some sense. And I will be right back. Okay, so as I was saying, um, yeah, he did kind of sound like Adam Sandler a bit in this movie, but I mean, I guess he was trying to portray maybe a redneck, so he was trying to have some sort of accent. But yeah, I guess what I was trying to say there is, I suppose because they've been friends for so long, they say that you pick up the mannerisms of the people you're around the most. So I guess maybe even I notice it sometimes with the ones I hang out with at work a lot. You kind of just pick up their mannerisms a little bit, and they probably picked up some of mine. It kind of makes sense, especially when you're around people. That's kind of, I guess we kind of adapt to, yeah, who we're around. It's kind of seems kind of weird, but I guess that's just the way we are as humans. We kind of pick up things, and um, yeah, just very odd. So anyway, um, yeah, Ben is trying to go back to New York to go to school, or not school to find to yeah. Was it for school? I think it was like he was trying to find like an internship place. I believe it was after school actually. He's trying to find his like dream job, and he wants to work for this um, Peter Francis guy who is all about climate change and so on and so forth and saving the world, which is an important thing right now. I feel kind of, as you can tell, even here in Canada, our climate is a little bit different even this year. I mean, we've had one bad dumping of snow, but yeah, I even went out to the garage earlier today. It's like almost shorts weather. Um, at least in Canada, it would be almost shorts weather. Because we've been kind of used to the cold, but now it seems to be kind of changing where we get a lot of rain, and I mean it gets cold, super cold in September for some reason, but nothing ever really comes of it. And then we kind of get like a few dumpings of snow randomly in like January, and then our winter's basically over. We're right back into spring. And the heat is getting worse every year, but I mean I don't complain about it because I am I like the heat, even though I have two shades on me. I'm either red or I'm white. I don't really tan that well, so yeah, there we go. Guess you could call that my little rant for the video, or ramble for the video anyway. So what was I saying before that, right? So Ben wants his dream job, and Larry doesn't really know what he wants to do, but he seems to kind of be getting blamed for a lot of the stuff that goes wrong with the family, and him and his brother. His brother always somehow finds a way, like Aiden always somehow finds a way to blame him for stuff, and he doesn't really want to spend a whole lot of time with his family. And then Ben gets roped into doing this pool for this older lady. Now, how did he get roped into that? Exactly. Oh, right. He has to do. Him and his dad end up going to jail, I think. Was that after the first incident, I do believe? And then, yeah, he ends up having to do, community service hours. I think that was it. So he ends up having to build this pool for this old lady. I think that was how that went. And during the time that he's there, he ends up starting to fall for this girl. Well, I can't really say that he was falling for her. I guess he was attracted to her when they were younger anyway. So he's really just trying to, I guess, sort of shoot his shot. Oh, right. Jackie Sandler was Crystal, Larry's mom. Jesus. Okay, now I know. Oh my god, I couldn't remember why I couldn't remember who she was playing. So anyway, yeah, he's starting to fall in love with this girl, Meredith. I guess you could say falling in love because they're a lot older now, and she's sort of giving him hints. She tries to brush him off in the beginning, but then he's a very persistent person. Let me just say that much, because he really does like this girl to the point where they actually end up going skinny dipping together at one point. Um, so he does eventually get. Yeah, and I think this was the one where he tries to take her to the prom that she didn't end up getting to go to, and they end up getting kicked out, and it wasn't exactly what he had planned, but she finds it sweet that he did that anyway, and then they end up getting together at the end. And then when his dad realizes that he's screwed up, he tries to get him the money because of his criminal record now to be able to go to New York, and tries to get him cleared of all that. And so his dad goes with him to the meeting, and when they're in virtual reality, Peter Francis screws up and goes after his dad in the virtual reality. And of course, Ben's dad doesn't know how it works, so Ben says, "You don't treat people that way," and says, "Screw you," type deal, and then goes back to where they were before, and says that he wants to spend wherever Meredith is where he's happy. So I guess he kind of figured out that he didn't really want to. Yeah, he didn't really want to have to be away from her because he was in love with her. So I guess that makes sense as to why he decided that he was going to stick around with her in the end. And Bridget Mendler, who I was like, that name sounds so familiar. So I actually looked her up and realized that she was a musician. And I guess her career never really took off as much as some of the other ones that were around like 10 years ago that had like a pretty booming career, like Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato and like all those other girls. She just kind of went straight into acting, really. I guess she kind of had like a couple years in music, and I don't think she's put out anything in like at least 5 years, and a lot of them are just like remixes or like rehashes of her old songs. And so yeah, I was like, oh my god, this girl looks so familiar, but I couldn't put a finger on it. And then I was like, holy shit! And I know some of her music because I remember it from when I was from 10 years ago, 19. Oh my god, wow! But then you kind of forget about some people, and then they just kind of pop back up onto the scene. So it was kind of weird seeing her in the movie. And so yeah, Wayne goes to the facility where Marty's working, and when he has Larry there, and he has them apply this like nipple cream or nipple something. I don't really know, but it ends up giving Wayne boobs. So he goes to try to fight him again, I think, at some point, and he doesn't even remember who Wayne is when he shows up at the facility because he was so drunk when he went to fight him the first time that he can't even remember who he is. He remembers Larry, but not the father, which seems kind of odd. But I guess maybe he met Larry when he was a little more sober, so I guess that would make sense. Uh, so yeah, that happens, and he has a reaction to it, and then he lets he actually lets Marty beat him up in front of Larry anyway, near the end. Although Marty goes a bit crazy and actually does beat him up, because he had this incident where he talks about this flash or whatever, where he got out and punched the guy, but turns out that wasn't actually how it went down. The flasher ended up actually using his car as like a joyride thing, and then he ends up hitting the statue of Paul Bunyan and knocks him out of the vehicle because this guy threatened him with something anyway, and just he ends up just driving him around because he was too scared to actually fight the guy. So this guy just flashing everybody from like city to city. His dad can't even remember how Marty can't even remember how long he was driving for, so it was kind of funny. Um, but yeah, other than that, so I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. I mean, I don't know if I would go back and necessarily ever watch it again. I mean, it was funny for a one-time go, but if I'm remembering correctly, there was just something about this movie that it was kind of like, it's good, but it's not like, I think maybe it was the accent. Like, some of it was kind of seemed like poor acting or bad acting, maybe. There was something else that happened that I was just kind of like, oh my God. But yeah, if I could remember what that was. And then Larry sleeping with the older lady to get Ben out of the job. And then he ends up applying for the Marines, I think it was. Or it was Marines or Navy SEALs, one of the two. And he ends up going back and sleeping with her again before he gets shipped off. Just like, oh my God. So I guess he finally kind of found some sort of calling, or he said he has to do something right with his life because he can't just sit around and try to figure out what he's going to do eventually. He has to kind of set some sort of plan in motion. Yeah, and Ben just has like a series of unfortunate events, not going to New York and then falling off the shelf in the store where Meredith works, and then when Meredith shows up to the him building the pool, he hits a pipeline and blows up and finds a dead guy in the old lady's yard, and just, yeah, what a mess. Poor Ben. Poor Ben throughout this movie, that's all I have to say. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for this movie, and I guess I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.